I'm Davy. I'm awesome. Welcome to Davy's Awesome Stories, where I tell funny stories from my past or go on a rant and never make you laugh. So, this week, I was thinking about how crazy censorship has been over the years. Especially because nowadays, it seems to be getting less and less. Like, I'm watching regular television and hearing people say the S word. You know what word I'm talking about, the one that also means poop. And it's not a big deal to me. I can handle it. It doesn't hurt me at all. I just think it's funny, because when I was a kid, there's no way that would have happened. Throughout the years, they've gotten so much more lenient. Even something like this, like YouTube. There's not much censorship. You can't say things that are considered bullying other people, and you can't show certain things like nudity, but you can say whatever you want. Some of you may be going like, but you don't do that, because I don't want to. I have no issue with anybody else being as raunchy on their channel as they want, but on mine, I don't want to. That's just it, and that's how I believe it should be. You should decide your limits and censor yourself. That's it. If I'm watching another channel and somebody says something that I don't like, I won't watch anymore. But it's not always been that way. They've gone after ridiculous things, even from when I was a kid. Like, I remember I was about 7 years old, and I remember this commercial that came on in the middle of the day for a while. It was a condom commercial. A Trojan latex condom commercial. And the only reason I remember it is because it had the actress who played Audrey Griswold in National Lampoon's Vacation. It's the only reason I remembered this condom commercial. I didn't even know what condoms were yet. In fact, it was because of this commercial that I asked my parents, what are condoms? And it's where I saw the different dynamic in my parents, because I asked the both of them later, and they were sitting there, and my mom tried to answer first, like, well, honey, you see, when a man and a woman love each other very much, before the man puts his personal into her personal. Okay, right off the bat, some of you are confused. At that point in my life, my mother's words for penis and vagina was a personal. But as she's struggling to get through this, my dad just interrupts her. Honey, I got this. Davy, a condom is a rubber tube you put on your thing before you put it in hers, so she doesn't get pregnant and you don't get the clap. Some of you may be going like, at 7 years old, you knew what the clap was? No. But my dad was blunt like that. It wouldn't be for a couple more years I would find out what it was. I figured it was a disease, but I have a literal mind. I thought it was some disease that just makes you clap until your hands fall off or something. But this condom commercial, which again was on during the daytime for a little while, found out years later that there was a reason I stopped seeing it during the day. Now, I didn't think much of it, but I did notice I started seeing it at night after 10 o'clock. Maybe going, what was a 7-year-old doing up at 10 o'clock? If we didn't have school the next day, my parents didn't give us a bedtime. Not saying I agree with that, because I'm not that way now, but that was how they did things. It started airing way later. Found out apparently there was a big, huge thing about it. Parents were outraged in certain areas. How can you put a condom commercial on in the middle of the day? Our kids can see it. They're going to ask us what condoms are. We're going to have to answer questions. Which I remember thinking, how ridiculous is that? But as a parent now, I kind of get it. Not that I have a problem telling my kids about sex. I just hate them asking me so many questions. It gets to that point. Like, Dad, why is the sky blue? Why is the water wet? Why is dirt brown? Why is grass green? Why are you standing on a stool and putting a rope around your neck? But I digress. However, though, when the day did come when I don't know where they heard about condoms, but they heard of them and asked me what they are, by that point, I'd already had the talk with them. We'd already talked about the birds and the bees, even though I could not answer why birds want to have sex with bees. But I just told them, you know what sex is? It's like a little rubber, latex, plastic type thing, and you put it on you so you don't get her pregnant or get a disease. Simple as that. And yeah, it kind of kills the mood, but you know what kills the mood worse is... Trust me, one is much easier to recover from. But I found out even more outrage was not just simply that they were going to let kids know what condoms were. But at the end of the commercial, she goes, "I'm a Trojan woman." Yeah. And that is too much to suggest that a young girl actually has sex. By that point, she would have been in her 20s. But as bad as that censorship was, it used to be so much worse. I have found out about censorship and how ridiculous it was way back in the day, especially the early days of television. In places I never thought I'd find problems with anything. For example, found out that apparently there was an episode of Leave It to Beaver that almost didn't get to air. Which is funny when you think about it, because that stereotype we have of 50s sitcom families, you know, the families that have no real problems, their biggest issue is, Timmy ate all the apples, now we can't make pie. Oh. That's Leave It to Beaver. That show is the stereotype. Basically, if you've ever watched the movie Pleasantville, that's what they're making fun of. And yet there was a controversial episode that almost didn't get to air. I found out about this, and I had to research it. Of all things, what did Leave It to Beaver do that almost didn't allow it to get aired? And I found out. Not only did it almost not air, there was a delay. It was supposed to air at a certain time. It got pushed back because they had to make a deal with the censors. Because there was a toilet in the episode. A toilet? Why? Like, granted, this was back in the days where on television it showed a married couple sleeping in the same room. They at least had to have separate beds, because we couldn't suggest that a man and wife might have sex. This was the days that you couldn't say the word pregnant on television, because that would suggest that a couple had sex to make a baby. But a toilet? But now here was the thing. I was thinking, at least with this episode, it must mean that the scene showed somebody on a toilet. Like somebody with their pants around their ankles, squatted down. No. The scene simply had two people talking in a bathroom, and behind them, you could clearly see a toilet. I've never gotten the why this was a big deal. Because toilets make people think about sex, not sane people. And I know some of you out there right now are like, oh, is he kink shaming? Let me be very clear. Yes, I am. Because if all things, if that really gets you off, you're a freak. But all that was there was a toilet. And I hate to break it to you, the average person, the average normal person, especially back then, did not see a toilet and immediately go to sex. Probably didn't even notice it. Probably just were like, okay, they're in a bathroom. Whatever. It's not like we look at toilets and go, oh, there was a vagina there. No, it's just a toilet. We all use them for the same things. But that almost didn't get the episode to air. It was delayed until they made an agreement. They could keep the scene in and show the toilet so long as the only thing that was visible was the tank and not the bowl. Which, thank God, because the bowl is what makes me think of vaginas. But doesn't stop there. I can't help but think to one of the most famous movies in history, with one of the most famous lines in history, and in my opinion, one of the most overrated movies in history, Gone with the Wind. And as I just told you the name of it, you instantly know what line I'm talking about. The line at the end of the movie where he looks at Scarlett and says, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." That line was incredibly controversial when that movie came out. That line, I will give it this. I've seen the movie, and it was a great line. It was a great ending. I just don't feel that the rest of that ridiculously boring movie was worth the payoff. But it was a payoff. It was a great line. It was a great moment in cinema history. When he looked at her and said, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." But it almost didn't get to be in the movie. They had to really, really fight the censors to allow that line to stay in the movie and be allowed to be seen in theaters. Because back then, that was the only way you could see a movie. You had to go to the theaters. You had to watch it there. They pleaded with them. That's the line in the book. It's an iconic line. It needs to be in the movie. Without it, it doesn't work. The censors were not budging because at the time, to say damn was a big, big deal. Now it's a curse word, but barely. Everybody says it. You can find that in kids' TV shows nowadays. But back then, you said damn. You were damning someone to hell, and we cannot have that in a movie. Eventually, they fought and scratched and clawed and got them to say fine, so long as you put a warning at the beginning of the movie that this will contain explicit language. Because at the end of the movie, he's going to say damn. What's funniest to me about this is what the line almost ended up being. They had writers writing a list of things to say other than, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. And the one that they landed on, if they just couldn't get the censors to budge, if they just couldn't get the movie code to go, okay, you can play the movie with that line in there, if they just couldn't do it, apparently what Clark Gable was going to look at her and say was, frankly, my dear, I don't give a continental. I don't believe that movie would have been so iconic if it had ended with him saying, frankly, my dear, I don't give a continental. What the hell does that even mean? Like, a continental, like the crappy breakfast they offer at hotels for free? Where they're sitting there like, yeah, free breakfast, and you're like, oh, great, some oranges and stale toast. Is that what he would have been talking about? He doesn't give a crappy breakfast? Or is he being more specific? Because honestly, I think it would have been more devastating if he would have said, frankly, my dear, I don't give dry toast. Or maybe he got there a little bit earlier, before every decent thing was gone. That would have been better. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a stale muffin. That would have been better than a continental. That's almost what the line would have been. And I can't help but think, I don't think that would have been remembered as such a great movie with all the Academy Awards and whatnot. I think it would have been a movie that we all forgot about, and the few people who remembered it would be making fun of it, telling people, what in the continental hell? So there you have it. That's my story of it this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications for when I post new videos, and leave a comment I can respond to in my next comment corner. Give me some more examples of ridiculous censorship. Love you guys.